Conversations in the QC is sponsored by Essentra Credit Union.
Welcome this month to Real Conversations on the Quad Cities. This is one of our favorite months because we're able to look back and think on and talk about those most impactful segments that we've done. As always, it was tough. It was really tough.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't just me, was it?
No, they all are impactful.
Absolutely.
Everyone is impactful. So we're going to go around. We got a little round table here. We're going to do our round table discussion and just talk about the ones that kind of stuck out to us, you know, the most. The ones that we really, you know, there was something there that was like, yeah, want to follow up with them and things. And we're going to start things off here with Joshua. And what segment was your most impactful?
Well, my most impactful segment was speaking with Tracy Singleton, who is the executive director at the TMBC Lincoln Center here in the Quad Cities. And the thing about the TMBC Lincoln Center that she would describe, it's like a black hub. It's a place where, you know, the African American community can come find a home and find all the resources they may need, whether that comes to finding a mentorship for their children or just, you know, getting some information on how to start a business. And me being someone new to the Quad Cities, I wasn't expecting something like that here, but to know that that is an option, somewhere I can go, somewhere I'm welcome, I think it is a great option for anyone who may need help. So here's me talking to Tracy Singleton about the impact of the TMBC Lincoln Center. I'm here with Tracy Singleton, who is the executive director of the TMBC Lincoln Center, and we're here to talk about the impact of the center since opening 2020. You know, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you.
That's great to hear. So, you know, the TMBC Lincoln Center has become a neighborhood hub or a hub for the African American community here in the Quad Cities. You know, tell me about the different programs within the center and some of the things that people can find when they come here.
So we opened in 2020, and initially when we opened, I actually just saw a video that I recorded about this time 4 years ago, and I was so excited because we had 8 businesses in here. Since then, we have 20 businesses, organizations, and nonprofits that operate out of our building and call the Lincoln Center home. Initially, this was supposed to be like a turnkey for small businesses that they start here for low cost overhead, but that they grew and eventually moved out, and then we get more people back in here. But I think the businesses that we have here now is a good core. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they're here to stay, which is good. We developed a wonderful ecosystem here of a combination of those businesses, nonprofits, organizations whose mission is all towards helping the Black community here in the Quad Cities. But beyond the businesses and the growth that we've had with that, our programming, our events, the services that we're providing are all very intentional. When you look at the disparities in the Black community and you look at reading and education, we have an after-school program that's geared towards changing those narratives. We have a free library that helps develop the love of reading so that those kids that should be reading at certain levels are going to be starting to read at those levels. When you look at the disparities when it comes to healthcare, we have a walk-in clinic that is open once a week. And right now we are focused on blood pressure checks, but what we're trying to do is normalize taking care of yourself, being an advocate for yourself, having the understanding that your opinion matters and that you should be respected when visiting healthcare facilities. When you look at the disparities when it comes to wealth and livability here in the Quad Cities, we have a business center with a partnership with Goodwill that provides opportunities, upskilling, skill building, resumes, assistance to help transition to a job that you can actually earn enough to take care of your family. So everything here is very intentional, which we have to be. I always say nothing changes if nothing changes. So we have to do things differently. We have to make the Black community our focus in order to start changing those numbers here in the community.
Kind of elaborate more on just that impact that you have seen over the 4 years from those different programs.
If you looked up impact in the dictionary, you would see TMBC Lincoln Resource Center, right? Because we're impacting the community in so many different ways. We're impacting the violence prevention by just simply having our doors open. To be honest, we'll take out all the programs and everything that we offer. Just having our doors open is preventing violence from happening in our community, because we're giving those kids a place to be, a safe space, so they know they walk in those doors, that this building was really created for them. So we're providing that option to being out on the streets and maybe doing something that you didn't, or just being at the wrong place at the wrong time. When you talk about neighborhood improvement, we're here for this neighborhood. We have the wonderful programs and the events and everything else, but our responsibility is to this neighborhood where we reside. So anyone can come here at any time, and if we don't have it, we're going to figure out how to get it for them. When you talk about impact, you talk about economic impact. Not only are we providing space for these businesses, but these businesses are hiring people. We are hiring Black-owned businesses and Black contractors to do the work. We are growing, so our staff is growing. So economically, we're putting money right back into our community. Even for the other contractors we're really using local contractors. So we're economically putting money back into our community. When you talk about the impact on reading and literacy, that's what our after-school program is for. That's what Reader Theater is for. So we are impacting everyone that is facing any type of benchmark where they need a little bit of help. And really, for me, it's all about opportunity. Our mission is so simple. Our mission is to empower and educate our youth, family, and community through opportunity. There are academic gaps, there are achievement gaps, but that's because there's an opportunity gap. So when we can start closing that opportunity gap by providing those opportunities, those resources, those connections, then we're moving our babies, our families, and our communities a little bit closer to the same starting line as everybody else, instead of always being so far behind.
In the beginning, is what the Lincoln Center is today, is that what you pretty much envisioned it to be, or was that more so a surprise when the ball got rolled?
Right. We definitely had like a 5-year plan when we first started, right? And the 3 things that I knew I had to do was build relationships, stay consistent, and do what we said we were going to do. So those 3 things have remained the same, but we had to adapt and adjust very quickly. A lot of things that we thought weren't going to happen until after year 5 started happening right away. Also, the needs of our community change all the time, and so we have to pivot and go back or move forward to something that maybe wasn't on our original plan, but it's a need right now. So we have to take care of that need. We don't have the luxury of like, okay, we'll handle that in the next 5 years. We don't have that luxury. We have to attack it as it's happening in order to have that impact that we have on the community. I knew always that this was going to be the hub for the African American community, but I wasn't just expecting people to support us, to come to us just because we were doing things for the Black community. I knew I had to earn that. I knew the Lincoln Center had to earn that, but that came from us being consistent and doing what we said we were going to do. Everything, as I said, is intentional. So everything that's happening in here is happening for a reason. We don't just make things up. We don't just go out and write grants just for the fun of it. Everything in here is because it's needed. It's a priority. It's affecting the Black community. It's affecting our students. So everything that we do in here is because we have to take care of something.
When you think of 2024, what other improvements have you all made to Lincoln Center in just the past year?
This year has really been about improving our spaces. This wasn't old school at the end of the day, right? Yeah. And so a lot of work had to be done to it. So creating these spaces, like I could have thrown some tables in a room and been like, okay, this is a computer lab. But we, meaning the Black community, didn't have something that was first class, that provided all the amenities that you would get if you were at a business center at a hotel or at a walk-in clinic at a hospital. And we deserve that. And sometimes when you see things differently, you change your perception on things as well. And then what that could do so much for you as an individual. So we have been very intentional, once again, on creating these spaces that are first class, that are something that you could get going anywhere else, you know. I had a gentleman come in one day to check out something, and when he walked into the room, he's like, oh, this is really nice. And I said, oh, well, what did you expect? And he said, well, I expected just a dirty old school. Well, why? Right? And so that's the reaction I want from everyone that walks into the Lincoln Center. So we have just been working on our spaces, creating these spaces, still remaining consistent, still doing what we said we were going to do, because we know that that is what's going to provide the impact that we need to have in the community.
Okay. And with that being said, talking more about those spaces, those first class spaces, tell me about the most recent project space that you all just pretty much, I believe, finished up, if I'm correct?
The auditorium, yes. So once again, this was a former elementary school. So the seats were for elementary students. There's a beautiful mural that was painted by students, but it was older. We had some ceiling issues with it, with leaks, and it was just time for us to create a space in the community that we could call our own. And so we were very fortunate to be selected as a Lowe's hometown project. They only selected 100 across the country, and we were fortunate to get that. So with about little over $200,000, we did a complete renovation of the auditorium. We are on the finishing stages of that. Flooring's getting done. The curtain should be here sometime next week. And then we will have a brand new, very modern theater that I feel for us is our first step towards sustainability. Grants are wonderful, but grants aren't promised, right? And so we have to start creating, going into this 5th year, ways for us to take care of us, right? And so I think that theater is the first step for us. Not only are we able to host events in it and charge admission for those, but we're able also to rent this out to other creatives and musicians and poets and singers, you know, to come in here and host their events as well. It's a 170-seat theater, brand new sound, brand new lighting. It'll have a new stage, new curtain, and we are just so excited about the possibilities that this will have for our community.
When you think about getting things done, what does the next 5 years? So I know you all going to year 5. Sad not to jump to ahead here, but you know, what does the next 5 years look like? You know,
Right.
You know, when that comes up, what will the community really see from the link?
Well, I think for one, I know this year for me and for our staff is to raise the profile of the Lincoln Center. Certain people know us, but not everybody knows us. And you have to be in the Lincoln Center to get that Lincoln Center effect, right? Once you're here and you see everything that's going on and the impact that we're having, then you're Team Lincoln Center, right? You're Team TMBC. So for raising our profile in the community so that when people talk about other bigger organizations that had been around for years, that we're also part of that conversation instead of being like we should be part of them. No, we're us. And this is what we're doing. So once we raise our profile, we have not yet done an annual fundraiser. We have not yet done a community campaign because I didn't have anything to sell 4 years ago. I have something to sell now though. So we'll start going into that. Once again, it's that sustainability. It's about being creative in the ways that we do get money so that if someone just says, oh, hey, sorry, we're not gonna go with that this year. Cool, we got money, right? And so it's raising that profile. It's building upon what we've already built. Sometimes you can only work with what you have. So you may be only able to help 25 students, but hopefully we get to that point where there's no limit on the number of students we can have in our after-school program or our summer camp program. There's no limit on the amount of boxers that can be down at the boxing club or in the dance program because we have the resources to accommodate all that. We are trying to be a little bit more creative in ways to address violence prevention in the community. So we're working on creating some programming around that. That will definitely create some economic impact for this next generation of people that we have here in the community. But I think what people don't understand, and maybe we take it for granted because we're here, this is not normal. Like, this isn't something like a laundromat or a gas station or a grocery store you see in every community, right? The Lincoln Center is really a model for what can happen in other communities. Every community has a school that's closed down, that's in a neighborhood that can benefit from having services within the school. And so you have people now, and I guess maybe I didn't think of it that way, but there's like an official name for what we're doing, and I don't even remember what it's called because we just did it, right? But now there are people who are like making plans to do these type of things, and that's fine, but know and understand that what we're doing here is not like what happens everywhere. And so to appreciate that we do have a Lincoln Center here, we just have to keep doing what we're doing and showing the change that we're having and keep showing the impact that we're having in our community. I always say, if I can improve the Black community and provide more opportunities, then that just makes for a greater Quad Cities at the end of the day.
And, you know, just with that being said, when we talk about community impact, what is one of your biggest accomplishments, or one of the center's biggest accomplishments for 2024? If you could
Still being here in 2024, or when people said we weren't going to be here in 2024, I would say that's probably our biggest accomplishment. But we just recently did the numbers. It's getting towards the end of the year, so you have to add up your numbers and make everything match, right? And economically, I think that's probably our biggest accomplishment, because between contractors and staff and vendors, we've put over $300,000 back into our local economy. And so instead of people being like, oh, they're getting all these grants and no, we're actually putting money back into the community, and a lot of that going back into the Black community. So I think that's what I'm most proud of.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time today. I will definitely have to come by and check out the TMBC Lincoln Center, see what I could find to actually benefit my life.
Right.
Okay.
Kayla, let's hear from you.
Yeah, so my most impactful episode was definitely be my November conversation with Thurgood Brooks. He is a big proponent of political advocacy across the Quad Cities, specifically in Rock Island. And it was a really great conversation I had with him, just because of the fact that what a year it was, I'll put it that way, for politics. It's something that's very dear to me and my heart in terms of just, overall importance. Nothing frustrates me more than people saying, like there's nothing, politics doesn't affect them, because it affects all of us in one way or another. So having that conversation with him in terms of getting the word out there as to why you should care about politics, why, especially this year in particular, it was so important, was really good to talk about and touch up on. So with my update episode, take a look at it. It was very good to talk to him and just catch up now the election is over, just kind of where he sees the society going, the Quad Cities going, America going, especially as a Black man in particular, in the year moving forward. So this is my episode with Thurgood Brooks.
Wonderful.
Joining me now is Thurgood Brooks. Thank you for joining me this morning.
Of course.
So we're talking about recapping on all things of the 2024 election, general election that is. Take me back. I interviewed you before, and we discussed all things in terms of what you were looking forward to, your thoughts on everything, and now we're kind of recapping now that it's over. Let's just start by telling me, what emotion did you feel throughout the entire election process?
Well, it was an interesting night. It was similar to about 8 years ago, right? This time I was with my sister and some siblings and whatnot.
You're with family as the results came.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And I being like a political mind, I see the game, or in a game, I saw it kind of like how I watch a game on football. Just kind of analyzing the numbers and whatnot and the returns. And so really, as far as I think about those emotions, I think about just the reality of further decline of coming out to vote, right? That's disheartening. either way, the results, or either way, just the reality of people not feeling that their voices matter. That's hurtful. That's hurtful because, and not only hurtful, but it's also discouraging in some instances. But it also is the reason why we do the work we do, because I think in this election overall, for some folks who feel like they don't matter often, didn't feel heard or didn't feel like they were being spoke to from either candidate, right? And in a lot of different ways. I think in some ways, the unfortunate part in the election process, especially as you get higher up into the federal conversations, we're speaking over people. We're not speaking to people and with people, we're speaking over them, and we don't want to address real issues because things might be hot button or not be politically expedient to the side you're on, right? But there are things that need to be discussed that are affecting people's lives that could have been discussed better in a way that people would have felt compelled to be involved and have their voice be heard.
Absolutely. No, I literally agree when you said that particular, just the not feeling heard. And that was one of the biggest things that looking back at it now, I was like, the big thing that hurts the most coming out of that election is kind of overall, not hurts, but just like you just feel is just like the amount of people who just, took that time, took that extra effort to vote, and they just, if it didn't necessarily go their way, whether it be the presidential or local elections, even in their vicinities, how they feel like, it's just that it didn't matter, that their vote still didn't count. And I just think that's kind of one of the biggest takeaways that, I wanted people to realize in particular. It's just like, you still did some good. You still did good by just going out and getting your voice heard in whatever capacity that was. And I think that further translates to my next question, and just in terms of how do you feel about the overall turnout of Black people in the election, in terms of that turnout when you look at those numbers. I'm not sure if you've seen them yourself or not, but Black people did come out in, not in larger amounts than we've seen in past elections in particular. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it kind of gets back to not feeling you're being spoken to, right? And the numbers were not as large as some elections in the past. I think that has an impact on results from the local and state and federal side of things, right? But when I think about the turnout of Black voters, unfortunately, it's becoming like a wave of how we want to get involved, right? We have been disenfranchised for a while. Things have, in a lot of ways, gotten better over time. However, I think we disenfranchise ourselves in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
The old saying, when you point the finger, is 3 or 4, however many count fingers are pointing back at you, right? I think that if we were being honest with ourselves, having a real conversation with ourselves, the finger's pointing back at ourselves, right? And the finger we're pointing at folks, it's justified, but it's just as justified as one's pointing back at us. And what I mean by that, Kayla, is that if you refuse to get involved, win or lose, however you think and wherever your morals lie, you're disenfranchising yourself. Right? Even if you stick to only one side of the aisle and complain about what they are not doing, and you continue to support them, right? You're disenfranchising yourself. Because when you think about the history of movements and our movements, we were willing to play politics the right way, in the sense of, if you're supporting our cause, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle we were loyal to. We're loyal to what's loyal to us. And that's what most people do when it comes down to politics. And I wish we had that behavior among others.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's one of the biggest things too for me is like, I've said it before and I've said it again multiple times. It's just like, I feel like you can't complain if you don't vote. Like, that's just kind of like my ultimate thing. No matter what the election is, no matter the time, you have to get out there and make your voice heard, and not set ourselves back, and further in time. And then being that you are, in the political eye in a sense, what do you feel like the future holds for America just in general?
I love to be hopeful, and I say that not to be a skeptic, right? But the work I do with kids day to day, whether I'm in the classroom visiting or I'm coaching 6th grade girls basketball now, which is interesting. But my point here is, I do see a hope in the future when I look at how people or how kids interact with folks from all walks of life, right? Those experiences that are valuable, that I think back to things that have really shaped who I am and relationship I've had with different people. They get down to different perspectives, different diverse peoples coming together and realizing that, hey, you and I are just alike, right? And the connection you build from that and how you are able to scope the world is important. And so I'm hopeful, but I think as hopeful as I like to be, we need to be more civically conscious, educated, aware, and involved, and that starts as simply as coaching sixth grade girls basketball and attending a meeting or two. Make sure your kids are reading, making sure that you're watching the news and being balanced, right? I think those are the type of things that I think could address the hope that I do have.
Absolutely. I think it's all about just careful optimism. I think it's probably the best way that you can describe it. You know, and what do you think the role is when it comes to community involvement as it plays a role in the election process? What do you think people getting involved in the community, how does that impact or not impact, you know, an election?
Well, the more you get out, the more you learn. The more you see, the more you know, right? And the more you invest your time in anything, or as you invest your time in anything, excuse me, the more it matters to you, right? And so if you are involved in the community and you are starting to build relationships with families and kids and people, your neighbors, what affects their lives and how it affects it matters to you. Like I said, I do coach, and I was meeting with some kids this past week, and I was able to tell them simply that it's hard to go to work out at 6 a.m. by yourself. But if you're doing it for player A and B, who's your friend and who you love, it's a lot easier to get up at 6 in the morning, right? And so I think it's no different when you think about community involvement and you think about election process.
Absolutely. No, that's a really good analogy to use there. Now, what are your personal concerns as regards to the upcoming state of society? What do you, anything in general, just that you, after seeing the way the election has played out, is there anything that you feel any type of way about?
Well, that's a question that we not can have a more of a conversation on for hours, right? But I have taken a social media hiatus for a while, for about 3 or 4 weeks now.
That's real. No, that's real.
That is real.
That day afterwards, I had to stay off. I couldn't tune in. It literally felt like I was grieving like a loss of something. Like I couldn't do the social media thing. That probably left 2 days afterwards.
Yeah. Well, mine was immediate after the election. I will say.
You gave her some time.
Like it had been building up, right?
Okay.
I have, like I said, that could be hours of discussions.
Yeah.
But to get to your question, Caleb, what I think about is how quick we are to judge. It reminds me of English, and I think in high school, and I'm thinking to myself, what in the world does the Salem witch trial have to do with today? And I was sitting at a buddy's couch the other day, and I thought to myself, it happens in different ways, right? And we're so quick to judge, or so quick to be willing to divide ourselves, separate ourselves from folks who we really are more closer to.
Absolutely.
Right? It's unproductive. I think it's un-American. If we're talking about we want to be American and being together, I think it goes against everything that what you're saying and either typing or spewing verbally, you're for, right? And it's counterproductive to us making this country what it really can be, especially being the beacon of light that it's supposed to be. And I do believe, in spite of everything that, our history and things of that sort, America is a great place because of the people I see. I get to meet every day, right? It isn't really what I see on social media. It isn't what you might see in congressional hallways and what they're saying on the cameras. People really do care about each other, look out for each other, and that's what we need to focus on.
Absolutely, and I think that's really a good point to mention is that, humanity still presides. I think that is ultimately the biggest takeaway from it all. Now, what would your advice be to young voters who feel, like we were discussing something earlier, what would your advice be to them who feel like their vote does not matter or it didn't count or anything like that, especially, again, young voters in particular?
Can't win all the time. I mean, it's sometimes that's tough to say because the elections and policies have effects on people's lives, real effects on people's lives, right? But that's part of the process. That's part of the agreement we make by being born. We don't agree to be born, but upon being born, we have an agreement to live in a society of laws, rules, so that way we can have some kind of order. Right, and in the election process, it comes down to a winner or a loser, and they support certain issues, and that doesn't mean your vote doesn't matter or doesn't count. It just means it's a season for everything, right? And you lost this season, and unfortunately, that may be the case, but I see opportunities out of things like that.
And then finally, just again, you had mentioned, with you again having so much experience being involved in politics in particular, why do you find it so personally important to be involved and informed specifically in the political system? Why is that just, now that everything is said and done, the election's played out the way it has, why is being informed so important?
My grandma always would make us sit down and watch KWQC and other folks. And she always say, you gotta know what's going on. You have to know what's going on around you, right? And that's those things like that sink into the belly of your soul, right? And so when I think about the political process and why it's so important, and me being a student of history, studying in school, and that's where the rubber meets the road. Being involved in the political process is how you affect the change that you would like to see, how you ensure the needs of your schools, your city, your county are being met. That doesn't mean that you'll get your way, right, or that you'll agree. But you have to be aware of what's being done, so that way you can have an opinion, an informed one. Right, and then if something is rallying up and bubbling up in the community that is affecting us in a way that is detrimental, by being informed and being aware, you don't have to be reactive. You can be proactive. And I think, unfortunately, often in our community, we find ourselves being reactive to things that are happening to us because we are not engaging regularly and being as informed as we could be. Right, and that's another way I alluded to earlier, is being disenfranchising and disenfranchising yourself. And so it's critically important, in my opinion, whether we like it or not. It's not always fun for me to sit around and read some things I read and watch some things I watch and be in meetings I'm in with folks and hear some things that people say. It's not fun. It doesn't create less stress for me, but it is necessary. It's necessary. Necessary for myself, my future kids, my nieces and nephews, the kids I coach, the people who I will frequent and may eat with that I don't know in the restaurant. It's important, and so that's how I feel about it.
Gotcha. No, that's all really good points.
Sorry to get kind of pastor mode.
No, that's great. Great way to finish it off. Again, just being proactive, not reactive, careful optimism, and just being informed. It's all very important. So all great notes of words of wisdom there as the election has concluded, and we see where society and things take us from here on out. So thank you again for joining me.
If I may add, honestly. For being real, I know we have some folks have some deep concerns and fears coming up. I remember 8 years ago when I was on social media after the election, I put out "We'll be all right" in reference to Kendrick Lamar, and I feel the same way, and I feel actually better than that because I think this is truly an opportunity, in spite of our feelings or how you may feel, to affect changes by being a little more informed, being involved. So I don't want people losing hope and feeling like the world's coming to an end, because it's not. The suns keep coming up, and just keep going to work and doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. No, it's good. We gonna be all right. Yeah, that's my song.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's a good little takeaway, good little message there. Again, like you said, just nice way to finish it off. I forget about that song all the time. But, it's real. It's real. Those things are very real. We're all gonna be. Everything's gonna be just fine. So,
it always has been.
Yep. Exactly. It will continue spinning. The world will continue moving on. Yeah. Thank you again for joining me today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jasmine Butler,
Yes.
what was your most impactful this year?
Yeah, so my most impactful episode was in August when I had the opportunity of chatting with Ebony Bailey, who is the director of the Iowa Black Doula Collective. So knowing that we have such an amazing organization here in the community to help women when they are experiencing a whole lot of changes with bringing in another life to this world, and knowing that they have such a very tight-knit community, like they throw baby showers, they help with breastfeeding, so it's just something great to add to this wonderful community. So I had the privilege of speaking with Ebony to learn what's the new things that will be coming in 2025. So here is me catching up with Miss Ebony.
Wonderful.
Today I have the pleasure of revisiting with Ebony Bailey, the co-founder and executive director of Iowa Black Doula Collective. Ebony, thank you for joining us again. Welcome back to Real Conversations. All the way from Atlanta, right? Or Georgia?
Georgia, yes.
Georgia, yes. Well, thank you for joining us virtually. I'm sure the weather is much better there than it is here.
It is, absolutely.
So explain to us again the role of doulas and why it's so important to have doulas in our community.
Yeah, so a doula is a trained professional that provides physical support, emotional support, educational support. And so our role is to come in the prenatal period, ideally, it would be around 12 to 15 weeks. Pregnant, a family would reach out to us and we would do prenatal appointments. We would attend your labor and delivery and then also be with you for an extended amount of time during the postpartum period. And so the importance of a doula is that the role of a doula is to fill in the gaps. Right? Everybody plays their role in labor and delivery. And so you have the nurses, they have their role to support you. The provider is meeting with you at your prenatal appointments, and they have this very small window of time to be able to answer your questions and check in on you. The doulas come in on the back end of that and say, how do we help you prepare for your appointments? What questions should you be asking your provider? What more information do you need where we can provide some evidence-based resources, as well as sometimes in a lot of cases, mend the relationships or establish a relationship with your provider. And so we work very well together, whether it be an OB, whether it be a midwife, home birth, hospital birth. We'd like to work as a team.
Yeah, so just another vessel to that community for the mom and baby. That's awesome.
Yes.
So since we last spoke in August, Ebony, has the collective reached more families in our community?
Yes, we definitely have. So we've supported over 50 families thus far this year. We have 2 more babies that we're waiting on to come before the end of the year. So that'd be great if they get here. But yeah, it's been great. So we've supported over 150 individuals with our community baby showers, with our breastfeeding support group, Lachey, that is virtual, and our virtual mental health moms group. And so we've had the unique opportunity to expand our reach in different ways, virtually and in person, which has been great.
Yeah, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So this year, we learned nationally that Black women are about 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than other races. So what are some ways the collective is involved in decreasing this number here in the Quad Cities and in the state of Iowa?
Yes. So I think that it's important to point out that those numbers are national. What are our numbers for Iowa? In Iowa, Black and brown women, or Black women specifically, are 6 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related death. That's important to understand. It's also important to understand that Black women are approximately about 70%, it's like 69.9% per 100,000 live births, compared to 26.6% for white women and 26.5% for Hispanic women. And so, again, where we come in is to say, hey, providers, what's happening, right? What's happening, and then how do we do something about it together? So we know that systemic barriers, quality to care or accessible quality care, rural Iowa is a very rural area. We also know that bias in medical treatment, discrimination, All of those things play a role in the numbers, and the numbers are what they are. They speak for themselves. So how do we improve the numbers? We improve the numbers by having the hard conversations with the providers, right? The hard conversations with the nursing staff, asking them what they're seeing. Are there things that are happening in these appointments, whether it be cultural barriers, language barriers, what have you, where there's room for improvement for everyone? And so one of the things that I'm really proud of is that we have what I call challenging conversations with hospitals, specifically in the Quad Cities. We started there and we're expanding out to go across the state of Iowa, where once a quarter we're meeting with L&D nurses, we're meeting with providers and saying, okay, what are you seeing? What are you seeing and what can we do different?
Yes.
And that, I think, is where it starts, is having honest and real conversations in a space where people know that it's a judgment-free zone, but the importance of the conversation.
Yeah.
So we have it from that end, but also from a community standpoint, coming in, hosting events, having conversations with other key community partners to make sure they understand the role of the doula and how we show up for the community.
Yeah, so it still takes part in that education. And my follow-up question was, how are you guys giving this information back to the community? And you just answered it just like that. So that is amazing. I love it. I love it. That is. So how do individuals reach out to Iowa Black doulas for resources, and how are services covered here?
So in the state of Iowa, there are no insurance companies who cover doulas, right? It's not an added benefit per se. But we have lots of doulas, lots of resources available to us to support families. So if you know someone who is of the BIPOC community, which means that they're a Black or brown person, then they can reach out via our social media. That's always one way to reach out. Also our website, so iowablackdoulacollective.com. You can reach out and fill out an intake form if you're looking for services. If you are a Black or brown individual in the community and you would like to become a doula, we do have 2 trainings that will happen this year. The first one will be in June. Go follow us on social media. The link to apply to become a doula will be live in January. So really excited, and thank you to our sponsors for helping us meet the need of the community. The other way is ask a friend, right? There's flyers at Edgerton. There's typically flyers at OB offices. When you are going to your appointment, let them know that you want a culturally congruent doula. They know how to reach out to me as well. We've made established really good relationships. But for sure, follow us on social media. Go to our website, click on the link. There's lots of resources there.
So in 2025, what are your guys' any upcoming events that you want to, I know you got the classes going on, any other things that you want to get us ready for? I love the community baby showers.
Yes, definitely having the community baby showers. But one of the things that we're doing this year that I'm really excited about is that we're doing postpartum boxes for the families that attend our breastfeeding support group and our mom support group, which again are both virtual, so they're accessible. You will receive a postpartum box. The box is very unique, and the items in the box are geared towards the birthing person solely. So we know that when you have a baby, everyone is like, oh my God, the baby, right? And sometimes the birthing person is getting left kind of by the wayside, having to figure it out. And so we wanted to really heavily focus on mental health this year, and overall health. And so the boxes will provide tools for you as a birthing person to aid in those areas. So you sign up for our group. Anyone who attends our support groups will receive a postpartum box starting in January. And there's some really cool items in there. I'm excited about the boxes.
Yay! Well, congratulations on everything in 2025, Ebony. Thank you again for joining us. I'm so excited to see how the Iowa Black Doula Collective will continue to impact our community. And thank you for just being you and making sure that we have a voice here in this community. So yeah, thank you. Great.
Yes, thank you. And I want to mention one more thing. We do have a donation drive that's happening right now for the allies in the community, right? Community partners. If you see fit to donate, we are a 501c3, so it's a write-off for you before the end of the year. There's plenty of links on our social media as well as our website.
Alrighty, so give back to the community as well. Yes, that's amazing.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Ebony. Happy holidays to you, and I look forward to continuing to hear everything that you guys continue to do. So it's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Well, I think we're all in agreement. It's almost every episode we've done in the past have really been impactful. I mean, we've all talked about the feedback that we've been receiving through the community, through our conversations. I know I've learned a lot talking to a lot of different individuals that we spoke with, and it's always kind of tough to pick out that one that's most impactful, because I think all of them are impactful, but we don't have all that time to go through it. Mine, when I had to look at it, and it was kind of tough to come up with the one that really stood out, but Tiffany Fitzgerald, which is the founder and CEO of Black Girls Golf. Had the opportunity to talk to her in February of this year and learn, just the reason why she started Black Girls Golf. She felt uncomfortable when she was on the golf course with a lot of her male business partners, and she really realized that majority of black women out there are not golfers. So, I mean, I thought that was just very positive that she took it upon herself to learn, number one, herself how to do this, but then also to start sharing. And it took, love Tiff, it took off. And I mean, across the country, world, she's met a lot of different people. And I had an opportunity to sit back down with her and find out what's been going on this year. And when her book dropped earlier this year, how did that impact her? So here's my conversation with Tiffany. Again, it's my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to be able to have this conversation with Tiffany Fitzgerald, founder and CEO of Black Girls Golf. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. It's been a while. It's been about 10 months since we had our last conversation, but I really enjoyed it, and we had a lot of good feedback from that conversation. And so when we're looking at this month, we wanted to pull out some of the conversations that we got strong feedback, and you were one of them. And so I was like, I got to talk to Tiff again. So we got to get an update. Like I said, it's been about 10 months. Let me know, talk to us, talk to our viewers about what's been happening with Black Girls Golf over the past 10 months. What kind of biggest milestones, changes has been happening?
So thank you so much for having me back. I had a good time talking to you. I can't believe it's been almost a year. That's crazy. Funny how time flies.
Exactly.
But some of the biggest milestones for Black Girls Golf this year has been securing one of our really, really good partnerships with Georgia Power. And because of their partnership, we were able to host another amazing executive retreat in Kohler, Wisconsin,
right,
which is, I don't know if the non-golfers know, but Kohler is a beautiful resort on the shores of Lake Michigan. We were able to bring almost 100 women there to learn to play golf, to connect. It was really around wellness. Black Girls Golf is centered around golf, but some of the components and elements that make it really, really special is our commitment to creating an environment where women can feel like they can kind of recharge, and using golf as a vehicle to do that. So we were able to go back to Kohler this year, and that was amazing. We launched a 9-hole weekly golf league, and that was, wow, amazing. I got waitlisted for my own league. Like, it was so full every week that I couldn't even get in to play.
Oh, that's awesome.
Part of that also was doing a developmental league where, we host golf classes, but oftentimes people will take a golf class and then they don't do anything else.
Right.
So we wanted to give women a place to extend their learning and connect with other women who were learning at the same level they are. So we have a 4-hole league as well. So those were kind of the big things that we did this year, and we're hoping to expand upon those things in 2025.
That sounds wonderful. A lot of good movement and drive here and stuff. But with the new, the 9-hole, the 4-hole, the things are happening and things. Last time we talked too, you spoke about, didn't happen a lot, but it happened periodically when women would approach you and say, you know what, it's because of you that I got into golf, and it's been amazing, How's that been happening? How's that touched you, and are you still getting some of that?
I get a lot of that, and it always takes me by surprise. I think sometimes when you've got your head down working, you don't always come up for air and really get to celebrate the wins, and to me, that's a win. I was volunteering with an organization for MLK Day, and I had on a Black Girls Golf hat, and a woman came up to me. I didn't know her, but she came up to me and said, I started playing golf because of you. And every time it happens, it kind of takes my breath away, because yes, that's why I did it, but sometimes it's hard to see your own impact because you've got your sleeves pulled up and you're, knee deep in the work. So you don't always get to see it or hear it.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. We need to get you back here in the Quad Cities. And one thing I didn't bring up to our audience again is that the reason we're talking to Tiffany, even though she's down in Atlanta, Georgia now, you were here for a few years, wasn't it? How many years were you here?
14.
Okay, a little more than a few years, so 14 years here.
14 years, yeah.
And we had the opportunity to meet back then and things, and I know you were in the corporate world at that time, and you had gotten to golf, and you felt a little uncomfortable going out on that golf course at first, so that's what kind of drove you to get this started, am I correct?
That is absolutely right. I really was searching for a way to connect with my male colleagues, and golf was the vehicle. They weren't inviting the women, so I invited myself, and it was challenging, it was intimidating, it was embarrassing, and because of my experience, I started Black Girls Golf. I didn't want other women to have that same experience getting into the game. Okay.
Tiffany, I'm going to ask you a question because it just, kind of come to me, and this is what it's about, real conversation. So I'm not going to try to catch you off guard, but I am a little bit. But,
okay.
because this would be like if we were sitting down having coffee, or lunch or whatever, but, with the growth of the WNBA, that has grown. A lot of great players. There was great players in the past, and a lot of people didn't know about them, didn't follow them. And certain players over this past couple of years have come up. Great players in college now. Do you see that, swing starting to happen with women's golf? Are there certain players that you see out there? Okay. Not yet.
So I think one of the things that is difficult, or one of the reasons why that's not happening in golf is an individual sport. Okay. There is no team recruiting you that's going to pay you a salary and pay for the expenses that you incur. You have to pay to enter tournaments, you have to pay for a caddy, you have to pay for lodging and travel and training and practice rounds and equipment. So if you don't have sponsors who are helping to mitigate the cost of all of that, it's really difficult. However, I will say that there are a lot of young African-American girls who are coming into the sport and are playing at a very high level in junior golf. We're starting to see a lot more African-American women playing collegiate golf at a very high level, Division I. So we're starting to see a shift in the pipeline of potential professional golfers. But again, there are lots and lots of hurdles to getting over the hump and actually becoming a member of the LPGA Tour player. So I'm optimistic, because we have so many talented young African-American women in the pipeline. But again, if we don't start doing some things to remove some of the hurdles that prevent them from affording a tour career, we're going to be where we've always been in this game. The LPGA was founded, I want to say almost 70 years ago, and we've only had 8 African American women ever play on the LPGA tour. So that's something that we definitely have to change.
I think with what you're doing too, Tiff, and the way it's growing, that will change. I think you're pushing that and stuff. People see that. Coming up on next year, you talked about this year, you had the event in Kohler again, which was awesome. I saw some of the pictures. I was like, I want to be a part of that. It looks like a lot of fun. I love the courses up there, but next year, first quarter, second quarter, what do you see coming up? What do you have coming up, if anything is planned yet?
So I have spent the off season working on a new website, which has been a long time coming. As a very, very small business, I call it a micro business, not even a small business. It's very difficult not to have your hands in everything. And if you're giving, everything a little bit of your attention, nothing gets 100% of your attention, right? So I need to start leaning into technology to help take things off my plate. So I'm really excited that our new website, we're at the finish line. We're almost done with it. I'm so excited. The website will allow people to connect digitally. The user interface is very similar to Facebook.
Okay.
So people can connect on there. They can, set up tea times together. They can, really, really engage on a higher level with Black Girls Golf without me having to initiate it. So I'm really looking forward to the new website coming in Q1 of 25.
Wonderful. We'll be looking forward to that, and thanks. Last thing for you, because I know we talked about this a little bit last time we spoke, was the Playing from the Rough. You became an author. The book dropped earlier this year. So what's been the the journey since it's dropped? How's the journey been for you?
I will. I'll be a little bit transparent.
Okay.
So the book was finished way before I released it. No one prepares you for the level of transparency and vulnerability that is required to write a book about yourself. And I just wasn't ready. I was like, oh gosh, now it's done. Like, people are gonna read this. Like, oh no. So it took a little bit for me to actually mail out the pre-sale, the people who purchased the book before it was done. And then it still took a little bit longer for me to even tell people that I had a book. It was so weird. But now that I've gotten over that a little bit, I've been invited into corporate spaces to share excerpts of the book, share the book with corporate groups, and have really good conversations around, what it really feels like and what it means to be a Black woman in corporate spaces, particularly male-dominated spaces, what that feels like, what allyship looks like. And so, interestingly, the book has really been able to precipitate some really great conversations in corporate spaces. So I'm really happy about that.
All right, wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. I still either have to get down there to Atlanta, or you got to get back here so I can get mine signed, personally signed with a picture with you and things. So I can say,
well,
I know
will
her.
tell you, as long as there's snow on the ground, Tim, I won't be there. I won't be there.
That's good. That's good. Wrapping things up here, again, appreciate you taking time to talk to us. I know you have a very busy schedule, and I love it that when I do call you, you do take my phone call. We know how get to that level. Get to that level. But leaving us today, there's people that's going to want to know more. They're going to want to reach out. Where are you at in this space? Social media. Where can people reach out to you if they have questions or want to learn more?
People can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me on Instagram, Black Girls Golf, and then of course the website blackgirlsgolf.net.
Okay. Well, Tiffany, thank you. You have a beautiful rest of your day, and happy holidays to you.
Thank you, and same to you. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks, Tiffany. Well, guys, it was great catching up with all of our impactful, conversations. I can't wait for, and I know as a team, all of our teams, we're kind of in front of the cameras, but there's a lot of people behind the cameras. And when we meet we have suggestions that come up. We come up with suggestions on, you know, where's that conversation happening? How do we want to lead the conversation? Who do we talk to and things? I'm looking forward to 2025.
I can't wait for 2025.
I can't wait for 2025
Absolutely.
either.
Lots to
New
come.
start,
Lots-
new stories,
New stories, lots
new
of
interviews, new conversations.
exactly.
Real conversations.
In the Quad Cities. So hey, we, you know, thank you for tuning in every month. Like I said, each one of us, we get a lot of feedback from the viewers. So thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for, you know, even we have a lot of people, you know, saying they wish us the best, and I think we've made some strides. So have a happy holiday season and a great start to the new year, and we'll see you in 2025.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Real Conversations in the QC is sponsored by Essentra Credit Union.